The Justice Department is once again being allowed to dig into documents.
They're going to move forward very, very quickly.
Which were marked classified and kept in the former president's South Florida home. A woman killed in Iran brings protesters to the streets half a world away. And an appeal from the president of Ukraine.
55,000 Russian soldiers died in this war in 6 months.
Directly to the people of Russia. These stories and more coming up on Newsbreak.
Hello, South Florida. I'm Elena Key.
I'm Amanda Gray. Today is Friday, September 23rd, 2022.
Live from the South Florida Media Network's Biscayne-based studios in North Miami, this is SFMN Newsbreak.
Tropical Depression 9 just formed, and for South Florida, the cone is concerning. Floridians grow worried this morning because of Tropical Depression 9 that has formed in the Central Caribbean Sea.
According to the National Hurricane Center, 9 is about 600 miles southeast of Jamaica and has reached wind speeds of 35 miles per hour. TD9 is expected to strengthen over the weekend, surpassing a tropical storm and becoming a hurricane. Jamaica, Cayman Island, Cuba, and South Florida should prepare for an expected impact early next week.
This morning, an appeals court forces the leading judge in the Mar-a-Lago search case to limit what documents the special master can review. The DOJ has resumed examination of records marked as classified after a 3-judge panel ruled with the DOJ, saying the hold put in place by lower court judge Aileen Cannon causes a real and significant harm on the United States and the public. In an interview last night, the former president said that he had blanket authority to declassify anything without undergoing any official process.
The President of the United States, you can declassify just by saying it's declassified, even by thinking about it.
But even Trump's allies on Capitol Hill questioning that logic, with Republican senators all over the country asserting that there is, in fact, a process for declassifying documents.
Iranian Americans are enraged this morning over the treatment of a woman in the custody of police in the nation's capital. As the network's Natalia Loreno reports, it's led to a huge protest this week in Los Angeles.
Hundreds of protesters chanting for freedom and peace outside of the federal building in Westwood.
The Iranian American community in Los Angeles is large, and we are very passionate about the rights of women in Iran.
The protest is in direct response to the death of Mahsa Amini, a 22-year-old Iranian woman who died in police custody. Officials say she was arrested by the so-called morality police.
Just for nothing. Just for nothing. Just for her scarf. You know? She didn't anything bad. Freedom!
CBS News reports Amini was arrested for wearing her headscarf or hijab in an improper way. A photo shows her in a coma at a hospital. Activists say she was beaten in police custody. Government officials denied the claim of abuse, but in a rare move, ordered an investigation into her death.
Hijab is used as a weapon in Iran. It is a weapon against the West, and women are used as pawns.
Amini's death sparked deadly protests in Iran. Social media videos show some women being detained at the protests, shoved into patrol cars, even as their loved ones plead for their release. There's also video of women burning their hijabs and others cutting their hair in protest. Here, protesters are drawing a connection to civil unrest in the U.S.
We're tired of seeing law enforcement be overly aggressive there, much like where we don't like seeing it here.
Let this be the George Floyd moment of Iran. Please amplify her story, because the Iranian government has shut down the internet in Iran.
I think it's our responsibility to help them to get their voice out there, or to their voice to be heard.
I'm Natalia Lorenzo reporting for the South Florida Media Network.
As the war in Ukraine enters its 7th month of fighting, Russians are now revolting against their government in anti-war protests. In an address to the nation 2 days ago, Russian President Vladimir Putin announced that he was mobilizing the military reserve. This news was met with fury from Russians who have taken to the streets and been arrested for protesting the war. Other Russians have been attempting to flee the country, with long lines being reported at the border. Ukraine's president is urging Russians to resist.
За полгода
55,000 Russian soldiers died in this war in 6 months. Tens of thousands are wounded and maimed. Want more? No? Then protest. Fight back, run away, or surrender to Ukrainian captivity. These are your options for you to survive.
Amidst the unrest, the Institute for the Study of War says that Russia's mobilization is unlikely to dramatically shift the tide of war.
Spirit Airlines' reputation is up in the air after former employees scheming to profit off customers and the airline were charged with fraud. Officials say it happened between December 2017 and August 2018, costing the airline $238,000. 3 employees who worked at the airline are suspected to have encouraged travelers to look for cheaper flights and then charge their reservations a more expensive flight without charging a change fee. According to authorities, they then charged customers a commission and kept the money.
One of Florida's Major League Baseball teams is after the web address of a restaurant on the West Coast.
That's still ahead, and so is this story.
It's so wildly popular among just normal people who like entertainment.
Most college students were in elementary school when the movie Avatar came out, so they never got an opportunity to see it in theaters. Today, that all changes. Newsbreak will be back in 2 minutes.
If a natural disaster shows up at your doorstep, you can't just turn it away. That's why it's important to prepare for emergencies before they show up. Go to ready.gov/plan to find the tools and tips you need. And make a plan today.
Jordan knows he shouldn't eat this entire bowl of nachos, but tonight he's earned that right because a few hours ago in the middle of happy hour, he recognized a sign. Not from the gods or a bolt of lightning, but from a double heart, a kissy face, and a fourth ha in ha ha ha. That's when Jordan knew he was buzzed. So when it was time to go, he got a ride home instead of driving. Be a legend like Jordan. Recognize your buzzed warning signs and get a ride home. Buzz driving is drunk driving.
Return to Pandora, one of the highest grossing movies of all time, is back on the big screen. Starting today, it's in theaters here in South Florida and across the country.
As the network's Alexa Velez reports, it's all part of the build-up to the Avatar sequel coming out later this year.
You should see your faces. Moviegoers likely remember similar looks on their faces when Avatar first arrived back in 2009. With $2.8 billion at the global box office, Avatar is the highest-grossing movie of all time, according to Box Office Mojo. James Cameron's sci-fi epic is coming back to theaters today, ahead of the release of its sequel later this year.
Avatar was wildly successful in 2009 upon its initial release and effectively disappeared from the pop culture zeitgeist for nearly 13 years. It's so wildly popular among just normal people who like entertainment and love going to the movies. That audience made that film a hit in 2009. And I predict that that audience will come back at the end of this year in 2022 to make Avatar: The Way of Water another huge hit. I think people are underestimating people's enthusiasm for this.
The re-release lands a few months before the December debut of Avatar: The Way of Water, which was originally slated for 2014.
I believe that all the delays are just going to lead to a spectacular experience.
Reporting for South Florida Media Network, I'm Alexa Velez.
The MLB is having trouble this morning obtaining a web address to use for one of its team's websites. The league wants the Tampa Bay Rays to have the URL rays.com, but can't because the Seattle restaurant Rays had the rights to the address way before the MLB team even existed. The MLB has tried negotiating a price for the web address name, but the co-owner Doug Zeller say the name is just too valuable to sell.
That's all the time we have for Newsbreak. I'm Amanda Gray.
I'm Elena Key. Get more news anytime at sfmn.fiu.edu.